G'day everyone. So welcome to today's session, and today we're going to talk about how to win with Business Judo. And Business Judo was introduced to me by Scotty, in a sense that Judo, the sport, is all about using other people's strengths. So it's combating the other people's strengths to actually get in a position to win. Or leverage their strengths. But there's also a moral code with Judo too, and that is having respect for the other person, thinking positive, and just having a good moral code for the opponent. And it's a great way to think about how we can implement and use this in a business sense, because in business, everything we do is with people, with others. So how can we leverage Judo in our own businesses and our own lives? And just to give you a bit of an overview as to what Business Judo entails or what it has in it. So it has positive mental attitude. A lot of the times we're faced with adversity, and it's all about having that positive mental attitude to take us into the next step, take us into the next action. And that is different for everyone. We navigate it differently. All our conversations are different as well. And we've got to adapt to these different situations. But having a positive mental attitude is a big key in being able to move us and propel us forward. They collaborate. So we'll get into what collaboration means for the panelists. But again, this has many different angles to it in how are people coming together to help each other, to make a difference together. People need people, and how do we navigate that? So we'll go into that collaboration part, and that they leverage. So they leverage in a way that again, coming into the Judo part, we leverage each other's strengths. So we can go in coming together and then working out how can we actually leverage each other to do what it is that we want to do. We create a win-win-win scenario. So how do we win? How do they win? And how do we both win? So we hear a lot of times about a win-win situation. This takes it to another level, that how do we unpack how that we're all winning together? Are you getting what you want? Are you getting what you want? And then are we both getting what we want and what we can achieve together? And they network. Just like today, we're having a conversation, we're talking to people, we're essentially probably collaborating in a way as well. But as people need people, and we have conversations to work out what it is that we want and what we need to do, people network, and that can be in a professional setting, it can be in a casual setting, but it's all about having conversations with others. So I want to do a bit of an introduction with the panelists today. So I'll start with Aarti. And Aarti, can you just give us a bit of an introduction into what it is you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, first, thanks, Andrew, for Scotty, and to Andrew and Scotty for having me on. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, based on the work that I do, it's definitely an area that I believe will benefit a lot of businesses in terms of their growth. In terms of my background, I come from a professional services background. I spent many years in corporates and multinationals, and the one key thread through all of my time in those businesses is that a lot of the work we did was very entrepreneurial focused and had that sort of flair, not the traditional corporate top-down approach where there's a plan and you execute. And I quite enjoyed the entrepreneurial environment. That led me into consulting. And from a consulting point of view, I use all of my experience and skills from my corporate days to help startups and small businesses grow And this is really in two areas. One is, kind of working with them to refine their strategy. And the other is looking at ways that can quickly add value and propel them to kind of the next level. And that usually is around the areas of collaboration and networking and leveraging their sort of network base.
Awesome. Thank you, Aarti. Next, Quang, can you just give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself?
Hey, of course I can. And, thank you for just having us here and allowing us to share our expertise. But, just want to just give Scotty a shout out because when he mentioned before this started, it was like, oh man, we haven't spoken in a while. And when we, broke it down, it was like, what was it? Coming up to 4 or 5 years. And it was like, wow, like, how can that much time has passed? But,
November 2020.
November 2020, right? But when we first, met and chatted, he was so generous to allow me to be part of this platform. And to this day, one of the things that I took away from like his training is the you also. And that's just, I keep that. I use that all the time because it works. So this guy knows what he's doing, and to be part of, your community. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. But what I do myself, similar to Aarti, started off in the business consulting space because I grew up in a family business, working with other businesses, but transitioned into, leveraging technology systems, and platforms to build systems and automations, right? Because a lot of the things that I've discovered in my journey in supporting other business owners is they get bogged down by all the administrative stuff, right? Putting out spot fires that can be put out quite simply with a simple automation, or do tasks that can be, that can be simply done by an automation that is repeated over and over again. So I build systems and automations and processes for business owners, on my own particular platform. So yeah, that's what I do, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Quang. And the final panelist is Lance today. So Lance, can you just give us a bit of an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sorry, my camera's not working. So yes, I started straight out of high school in 1968 into the international trade and transport sector. First company I worked for was a customs broker, freight forwarder down in Sydney. I went from there to 3M Australia, an American multinational company, and then I went to another multinational called Baxter Healthcare. They're at Toongabbie, still are. I did some training and got some certificates. I gave them to the personnel manager, and he said, "Doesn't make any difference here." I became a customs broker, and so I started my own business. After he said that, I spent a bit of January the next year, 1976. I just I was actually living at Hornsby at that stage, not Hornsby Heights like you, but Hornsby down in the valley. And I got enough business. I thought I'll give this a go, and that was my launch into entrepreneurial acts. So I did that for a number of years. I had some ups and downs. 1999, I was actually, for the previous 3 years, I'd been a trainer in sea freight procedures for the Australian Federation of International Forwarders. They've now merged to another organisation. But I thought I'd had my ups and downs with banks in my customs broking days. But when I got this letter from the bank, they said, "You've got to pay your full amount of your overdraft back right now, no ifs or buts." And so we had to sell our house. And I said, "You're not selling my house to the bank. I had some collaboration, if you like, with a guy that I knew from church, and he organised, it wasn't his company, but he organised people at Hornsby, a real estate company, and they sold for a fairly good price." So I lost our house. We had to find other people. We had some friends, and we moved it with them. They were renting on a property out at Dawson, 5 acres, and we had 2 of our children. One had left home, and a few dogs and cats, and we moved in there. And that was in October. In December that year, 1999, my CEO at the AFIF said, "Come and talk to me tomorrow about GST." I said, "Why would I want to do that?" And he said, so I talked to him, and he said, "I want you to go to the tax department because they're throwing money at all industries. I want you to go and do it on our behalf." And I said, "Why me?" And he said, "Because you've had your own business, and all the other tutors here that did air freight procedures, I did sea freight." So I ended up doing 47 seminars leading up to the introduction of the GST on the 1st of July 2000. And so that was a very interesting thing. But I collaborated with many. I went to the tax department who was paying me. And I said, "Well, firstly, I can't find anyone else to do the thing, or they're going to charge like a wounded bull to, indirect tax experts." And they said, "Oh, you can do that as well." I said, "I don't want to be double dipping if I'm the project manager." "No, you can do that. Just give us an invoice every one you do." So 47 seminars in 13 weeks. So I did that, and I transitioned. Let's keep it short. 2021 April, I saw a live stream about some 2 guys were doing Amazon Live, and so they showed me, you can actually apply to do this. And so I decided to sell books because I'm an author myself. And when I went to download the Amazon Live part, I had to become an Amazon associate and also an Amazon influencer. I signed up for that, went to the thing to download the Amazon Live. Oh, it's only for iOS, Apple. I have a Microsoft computer and a Samsung phone. And they haven't changed. I presume that they've got a collaborative deal between Amazon and Apple and don't want anyone else in there. So I've been setting about finding another application that I could use, not Teams, not whatever, but I found one, but I've been waiting for about 2 years for it to come out of beta, and it's about to come out. So that's a bit about me. I've in those 2 years, I've been promoting books, sharing books like Scotty's book, and that's me.
Awesome, thanks, Lance. It's probably a good segue into today, because you've shared quite a bit of experience there. Like, something that came up was experience, and even in those ups and downs, and just going through seeing what you have to do. I mean, even like losing your house is not great, and going through that, and if we come back to like adversity that people face in all different matters, I think it's everyone faces some sort of adversity, but it's how we go, like, transition through those hurdles, and find, like, how do we find the people to connect with and share those stories with. And I think thanks for sharing all that, because even coming back to the experience part, like when you were talking, it kept coming back to experience, and it's a big part that we experience and the stories that we share. Aarti, I'll go over to you, Aarti. Do you adversity, like coming through adversity and just keeping that positive mindset, are you able to share a little bit about maybe something that helps you maintain that positive mindset?
Absolutely. I think I do it at 2 levels. One is in terms of, I kind of incorporate a number of things in my daily routine, which allows me to kind of stay on top of things and helps me better navigate through. And a lot of that is linked to wellness, because I finally get it when, like when you're on a flight and they say, put on your oxygen mask before your child. I finally get it. Like, it's taken a while, but now I do it. And a lot of what I do daily is around focus for my personal wellness. And that helps me keep a more positive mindset and attitude towards everything. Because a lot of the work that I do is with rapidly changing businesses, and there are lots of highs and lows. And in order for me to be effective to them, or be able to help them, I need to be able to kind of understand those highs and lows without taking the high and low journey with them, so that we can come up with better solutions. And specifically from my business point of view, my business partner and I have a very similar mindset in terms of whenever we do encounter situations that haven't quite gone our way, we look for opportunity in terms of either learning something or using it to kind of get into a different area. Recently, and Scotty and Andrew, you will know about this, my business partner and I considered a project where we saw a gap in the market for CSI, particularly with corporates helping smaller businesses. And to get this off the ground, we were going to work with a partner. And all initial discussions were very positive, and we were all moving in the same direction. And as we got to the point where we would agree that we were collaborating, we saw a misalignment in terms of how we would do things. And this was after like a good 6 weeks of putting a lot of work into coming up with a solution. And the thing that my business partner and I took away from there, that whilst that opportunity didn't work out, there were lots of learnings, little learnings in terms of maybe there were a few small warning signs that we didn't notice, and maybe next time we'll be a little more vigilant. But I think more importantly, out of that, we saw that all the work that we had done for those 6 to 8 weeks hadn't gone, it's not really going to waste, because we're actually using it as a basis to refine our own business model to create efficiencies within our business. And I think that's the key, is firstly, navigating the smaller things and getting through the hard parts, but then also adding on the layer and flipping it around to see how can you turn the negative into the positive.
And Quang, in your, because you said you've been in the family, you start off in the family business, and I think where I'm looking to go with this question is, even in the family business, and then also having conversations outside the family business, through and through adversity as well. Have you got any experience in how you've been able to navigate and maintain a positive mental attitude yourself?
Mate, no experience. I'm always positive all the time, 100%. No, definitely not at all. So I can definitely share, like, I can draw on those experiences for sure. And I want to just one thing I've definitely learned along the way is that business is not a game for emotions, right? Because if you let emotions dictate, then excuse my language, shit won't just get done, right? And so what I've learned along the way is combinations of things. So let me know if you can see my screen here, right? I just want to draw it out. Like, we all feel emotions, right? And we have our peaks and we have our troughs. And emotions are just part of us because we're humans. But what you want to do is you want to minimize these peaks and troughs, right? So that you're able to regulate and move forward and all that kind of stuff. And so what I've learned in particular with like growing up in a family, so if you can see, like, I'm a guy, I'm the eldest in my family, and I've got Asian background, right? So if you know that culture, everything falls on me, right? And then that pressure is immense, right? To fulfill those responsibilities, and didn't do this really well. Like wholeheartedly didn't do this really well. Didn't even do it at all, right? If I'm to be completely honest, is to have the courage to have those conversations, those honest, transparent conversations, because if you don't, you just hold on to that inside of you, and then the emotion just builds up, right? And then it has to come out in some capacity, whether it's like a drunken night out, whether it's like, you know, yelling at something, or, you know, maybe lashing out when you don't mean to. So have those conversations. Being a guy, I'm like, you know, and I'm the stereotypical guy, didn't talk about my emotions much and all that kind of stuff. One thing I've learned that's been really beneficial is to name what I'm feeling, right? It's like, oh man, I'm having a really tough day today. It's making me feel like I'm so pissed off right now. It's because of this has happened. But the funny thing is, once you name it, it allows you to get over it and then focus on what's next. So those are the two things that I've taken away from, you know, this journey that I've been on. Is one, be courageous enough to have those transparent conversations that you need to have. And if you can name what you're actually feeling, you actually get over it, and then you can focus on what you need to do next. So hopefully that's been a bit of an insight and been beneficial to you guys out there as well.
Awesome.
If I can, sorry, Andrew, if I can just make a comment. I'm a firm believer in what Quang said in terms of having your low highs and your your low highs and the opposite of the thing. Sorry, I can't get it now. You know what I mean? Where you have the idea is to keep everything in the middle.
Finding that balance.
Yeah, finding that balance. And you and I have had the same conversation, because that's what allows you to navigate more of it, I guess.
Yeah, and
low highs, high lows. That's it.
And sometimes just picking up the phone and making a phone call or something as well, isn't it? Or going outside and reconnecting with someone, just to reconnect, because sometimes it just, all those emotions building up, and hearing hearing everyone's I guess parts of their journey at the moment. A thing comes to mind is we've got like things on the shelf. Like we've got a shelf that we sit things on, and then when we need it, we take it off. So even if it's like a project or something as well that we're working on, like Aarti, when you're talking about your large, like that project you spend all that time with, but now might not be the time for it, but there's like, is it something we can put up on the shelf? There's probably some good framework or something in there that we can have for later. But yeah, I'm just picturing like a shelf, and we're constantly just got things like up and back, like putting it back when we need it or taking it down. And I guess coming into that leads into like a thing I want to move into is flipping negatives into positives. And we probably all heard a bit of that in each like things that we've already said. And Lance, I mean, you said, was it 1960? You started business in 1968?
Yes.
And you would have flipped a lot of negatives into positives in that time.
Definitely.
Is there something that stands out that looking around the room, like we're all business owners in here, is there something that stands out that you like to share with business owners in something you've really flipped a negative into a positive?
Yeah, I'll give you one for a startup. We'll see how we go. The first, I mentioned the GST, and for those that don't know, goods and services tax. I think we're all in Australia here, and that was a totally new tax. And even so, when I sort of dealt with it, I had this contact person in the GST startup office, which was part of the Australian Taxation Office. Gina, her name was, lovely lady. And when I said, look, I can't find anybody to do the speaking, as I said before, she said, no, you can do it. But I said the other thing was, we had two people came up from the Melbourne Transport Division of Tax saying, we want to find out what you guys do, because we were talking about air freight, sea freight to and from Australia. They were dealing with taxis and trucks within Australia. We're not talking about import-export, sea and air. That's all we have. We don't have bridges or tunnels to other countries. So anyway, they didn't know anything about our business. And all the people in the tax department, when this was coming in, they were struggling to figure it out themselves because it was a totally new thing. Anyway, I then said, why can't we get some of your people? And I had to do it around Australia and the major ports. And I said, why don't we, your people are struggling with this, I'm struggling with it. Why don't we bring in each port someone from the tax office to be there to answer questions, because I won't have all the answers. I'm not a tax person. And so I was able to collaborate and get really good people. In fact, I can remember an instance, I was down in Melbourne and there was quite a large audience there, and someone asked a question, and the person from the tax office was standing beside me as I was presenting, and someone asked this question. He said, oh, can I call, a friend? Like I do on some of these TV shows back in the day. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, he called the tax office, and from there on in, we had a special hotline that if we were asked a question in the audience, the tax guy would get onto the office in Canberra, a special line, to get the best answer they could for that question. So that was a collaboration, but it was a very important one because it was working together with this huge organisation, a government agency, and me, a one-man band. Yes, I was a tutor for the Australian Federation of International Forwarders, but in my capacity, I was contracting to AFIF. So there you go.
Sorry, I was my phone was just going off. Apologies for that. So thanks for sharing that, Lance. You're saying there it was important for collaborating in that too, and we see collaboration where everyone sees even collaboration differently, and there's a definition of what collaboration is. But even coming into was it the tutoring and the sea freight and that, you're still having to unpack exactly what that is. Like you're having to go through the win-win-win, like find those. You mentioned you're both going through, you've got struggles, I've got struggles, and then coming together to form that collaboration. Quang, could you give us a bit of insights in what collaboration means to you?
Yeah, that's a really great question, mate, because it depends on, I guess, the stakeholders that are involved, right? Because even you working with a client is a collaboration in some capacity, right? Or you working with a supplier is a collaboration. So the context of the collaboration and the stakeholder is it varies. What I love what you said earlier is that it needs to be win-win, win. And the importance there is the third win, right? So not only is it going to be a win for you, because let's be honest, we're in business to make money for ourselves, right? To turn our business into this vehicle to provide the lifestyle for us and our family, right? So we have to be in it for us. The other partner, the other collaborator, it has to be a win for them. Otherwise, why would they jump on with you? So you have to understand what it is they're actually after. And this is what most people don't realize. They don't actually dig deep enough to find out what it is that they actually want, right? That's the key. And then, you know, the third win, where you and Andrew mentioned that it's got to win for everyone. I like to think of it as and this is probably because of some trainings and other stuff that I've done. I like to say it's got to be a win for the whole environment, for the whole project. So that means not just for the both of us, but for our, you know, clientele base, for our suppliers. It's got to be a win for everyone. And so essentially it comes down to, for me, it comes down to what are they after, and can I provide it for them? And is this also going to be beneficial to my network and my ecosystem as well? So they're the two primary things that I look for, because is it going to be a win for me? I always say yes, because it's up to me to make it work, right? To make that relationship work. So they're the key things that I look after. They're the key things that I look for. They're the key things that I dig deeper down to find, like, what can I do to make it a win for them? Because it has to be a no-brainer for them to collaborate with you. And part of that is understanding. Again, I think I've said this a lot. What are they after? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're emphasizing that the middle win there, and I think it's important that middle win can also leverage into maybe another collaboration with whatever that project or whatever that looks like. But if you like creating that middle ground, like they've got what they want, you've got what you want, you actually both come together, and everyone has won. How do we then use that middle win to then progress to the next stage, or what else could we do further?
Most definitely, and I'll just add a little bit more onto that, if you don't mind. It's because and part of the reason why I look to make sure that they win is because of who they know as well, right? It's not just, I'm not just working with the collaborator themselves. Their network, it's like the Russian doll, right? Who do they know? Because they're observing them as well, right? Because once I get into their trusted circle, as you mentioned, the opportunities then open up tenfold. And if I can make it a win for them, then what that also does is they're going to speak about me in such glowing terms that it's as we said, Scotty and I, when we first met, that conversation, people talk to other people, right? And if you have that trust already, then you can't beat someone else's word of mouth, right? So, and that's why I put the emphasis on the win for them. Yeah.
Also, because it's well, it flows on. I think it even comes back to having a positive mental attitude as well. You know, having those conversations and staying positive. You can, whether you're radiated or we give off that energy as well. How much do we give? We've got to monitor that ourselves, because we can, all the give. But there's also got to be like, where's the rest period in there as well, and giving to yourself. Aarti, have you got anything to add on, like the win-win-win scenario?
I think the most important thing, like I'd say to smaller businesses who are starting to look to get into that area, is to first get over the mental barrier that in this very instance, you're not necessarily negotiating the best outcome for your company. It's more about understanding that because you collaborating with someone, you're going to get more, and that bit that you are getting, you wouldn't otherwise get without the collaboration. So it's not about the best positioning. And this is a common theme, like I've seen in many startups. When they first start talking about collaboration, they're always trying to get the best position because everyone has a lean bootstrap company. And once they go through the emotional journey of accepting and they start collaborating, you'll see the change in mindset, you'll see the change in traction. So for everyone to acknowledge that it is a different situation, and that it's okay to not always get the best outcome for your business, because you never know where things are going to lead. And I have actually a really, really great example, which Andrew knows about. So a small business in Bondi wanted to bring in more foot traffic, hospitality business on a quiet night. They got together with a whole lot of founders in the Bondi area. They started a pitch club. Someone offered to do the videography for it. And 7 months in, they became a brand that was quite well known. They were then approached by another region. So last week was the first pitch club that they held in Parramatta. And in the next, hopefully next month, we're going to be having a pitch club event in the Hornsby or Northern Beaches area. And that's like, for me, a really, really good example that once people started letting go, the something that started out as being something very social has actually turned into a viable business idea. And that's because everyone's accepted. We'll all get something. It might be less than we would like, but we're all moving forward, and we might get something more out of something, and it might be even bigger than if we did it on our own.
So just those little steps and even like little conversations
Yes.
or little actions can make a big difference in just the stepping stones that we take. And I think it's also that it's even like a community in itself. And Quang was talking about like people talk to people, and like we've all got our own communities, but everyone we just don't know where, like what those opportunities look like, where they're going to come from, and it's constantly having those conversations and working out what it is about our environment that we can come together and want to create. And again, it comes back down to what the people want. Quang was talking about wanting what do you want, what do they want, what do we want, and finding those people too that are on maybe similar levels, or they're just the ideas are resonating with you as well. And sometimes that it's not the direct conversation as well. It's just having that little conversation. Go, oh, I know that person. I'll go and speak with them, and then people talk with people. We've pretty much covered off what I was looking to get out of the event today. Is there anything? I'll go through. So with the audience here today, I want to do and this is for everyone today. So we'll do what we call in System 1357 is an R2A2. And what we want to do is out of the discussion today, what is something that you recognize in your business or in your ideas? What's something that you recognize out of today's session? And you can write it down. This is just for you. This is just for you to take away. But what's something you recognize? Oh, no worries, Poonam.
Well, while that's happening, I'm just going to give a little bit of background on the whole Business Judo and the collaboration.
Yep.
So Business Judo is very much so an attitude. It's very much so a way of thinking, as opposed to, I call it a system because it's a systematic way of thinking. And that's what successful people do. They collaborate, they leverage, they network, they deal with adversity. But it's very much so an attitude. So where did that come from? So I'll stick I'll stick with PMA, and I started the book with attitude and it finishes with attitude. That's the 5 systems of successful people, right? The one thing successful people do is exactly what Lance, Quang, and Aarti said, is that positive mental attitude. So where did that come from for me? It came from this book, okay? So it's through, I'm not sure if you heard of Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone, but they wrote this book, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. So what the definition is, after nearly 300 pages, to summarize what that meant to me in that book, is that a positive mental attitude doesn't mean things aren't going to go wrong. It doesn't mean everything's going to go right because you have a positive mental attitude. What a positive mental attitude means is having the right mental attitude in any given situation. That means good times and bad times, as Quang did that, the camel, if you like, So it's having that right mental attitude in any given situation. That's what a positive mental attitude is. When things are going good, what else do I need to do? And when things are going bad, how do I flip this narrative? How do I flip this from a negative into a positive? Or better still, how do I, like Lance did, how do I flip this? How do I flip this situation into a total advantage? So we went and leveraged and collaborated with the tax department to do GST talks. Well, what a perfect situation. Perfect collaboration, perfect leverage, perfect flipping of the situation. So that's a little bit of the background on the positive mental attitude. So there's a whole book on it if you want to read it. Okay, positive mental attitude. But I also liked what Quang said about adversity. I think we'll talk about adversity. But I'm a huge fan of this saying, and it's, if you can control your emotions, you'll ordain your destiny. Now, you said it in a different way, Quang, but I totally agree. Control your emotions and ordain your destiny. It's really hard to do that, right? It's really hard not to respond and react, because we're humans. But sometimes you've got to take a step back and go, okay, well, let me think about this. Let me have a breather. I can't remember, I think it was Andrew, you said, take a break. For me, I go for a surf. I go, okay, I need to control my emotions here, so I don't overreact or over-respond. I need to actually stop and think. Sometimes it's sleep on it. But you're right, I really like the way you said that. Control your emotions and ordain your destiny. It was you that said something like that, wasn't it, Quang? Yeah, good. So that's definitely true, right? So that's all business judo. It's mental judo. How do I get a situation and flip this narrative? How do I leverage it into something better? How do I collaborate with someone now and make it even more? That collaboration that you talked about, Aarti, with the was it startup? Did you say? Was it Pitch Fest or something? Yep.
Pitch Club.
Yep.
It's the Pitch Club. That's also the Pitch Club Andrew is getting involved in.
Oh, okay. Yep. Cool. And like that sort of thing. If it wasn't for collaboration, I never would have started my company. Because I learned collaboration when I was in the insurance business. An example of that was, we ran sales teams, but I'd collaborate with another team manager, and we'd bring our teams together for a week. And we had what we called an Ardmore. Don't worry about what that's called, but we had what was called an Ardmore. So our teams came together. So collectively, we had 2 teams, which made a third. So the sum of our 2 parts was stronger because we came together. So we had a week together, and then we do one in their area and one in our area. So it was really bad that I wasn't in my area working for the week. But when we came together, it was almost like I got 3 weeks worth of work in one, and so did they. So that's a perfect example of collaboration. And I was doing those things through the 90s. So when it came to trying to make 2 people come together to make a bigger part or a bigger whole in the 2 parts, well, that was collaboration. And that's what collaboration's all about. And like Quang said earlier with the win-win-win, that full 360-degree view. If there's any losers, like chain's only as strong as its weakest link. So if there's any losers in this, like you and I might be winning in business, but the clients aren't. Well, that's not going to work, right? So there has to be a win-win-win for every single person in the loop of the business, right? Every single person, staff, clients, us, suppliers, upstream, downstream, wherever you look at it, a full 360-degree view. That's the only thing that's different between win-win. It's just taking that extra look at it to a full 360-degree view. So I really liked what you said, but Lance nailed it when he talked about his business and when he grew it, and then how in 1999 he hit a real adversity thing, right? Totally out of his control, unexpected, and he had to then not only go forward but also to go forward with that positive mental attitude And all of a sudden, these opportunities opened up, which sounds like he had a really good run there with perfect business judo, because the next year, at the start of 2020, when the market was dead, by the way, so unless you're around at the start of 2020, you may not remember, but the market was scared. We'd just come out of what, the Y2K bug. We had the GST coming. We had the technology crash, or what they call the dot-com bubble burst. The market around Australia and the world, generally speaking, was very dead. And then to add that on, as I said, come June 30, Australia was introducing the GST. So everyone was scared. Nobody bought anything. Nobody sold anything. The market just stopped. And Lance would remember that, because it was right there. And that's why the bank did what they did. And it was totally out of his control. So Lance has got a really, really strong story here about how he leveraged, he collaborated. He had his positive mental attitude right through this, created a win-win-win situation. And he called it double dipping, but that's leveraging. You know, he got paid multiple times to do the same thing, and that was perfect situation in business. So I heard some really good stories there off everyone. So I'm not sure, as everyone thinks about the R2A2, if anyone else has got another quick story they want to share that's in the group. Anyone else got a quick story they want to add to that, where adversity or collaboration, win-win-win situation has helped them?
Hey guys, just not another story, but backing up what Aarti shared there, that don't always think about that the result that you're going to get from the collaboration is going to be business related, because there are intangible benefits as well, right? Whether you have access to the network, or whether it's the level of conversation that you have when you brainstorm together or have that conversation, or it could be even like you just become really good friends as well, right? So there are other intangible benefits, you know, to a collaboration beyond the business. So don't dismiss that, because hanging out with, we've all heard the saying, like, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with, right? And if a collaborator is of a high quality person, and whatever that means to you, right? Like in terms of like business savviness, you know, values, then you're going to level up to you know, be with them as well. So there are so many intangible benefits to collaborations beyond the business as well.
Spot on.
Yeah, still people communicating with people at the end of the day.
I might just add something, if I may.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if you've heard of the books The Go Giver, hyphenated, Bob Berg and John David Mann.
No.
There's a number of books. They're all fables, but I've just been going through. I listen to them on Audible, but I've just doubled down on the main learnings from them. And one of the things in the Go Giver influencer book, there's 2 parties, a big company and a solopreneur, and they've both got coaches. They end up being anyway, I won't go into that, but the one person was saying to their mentee, you need to listen to people when you're negotiating. You need to listen, as Quang was saying, you know, when you're in these win-win-win situations, part of it is listening to the other person. And the person was saying, listen not just with your ears, listen with your eyes, listen with your posture, and finally, listen with the back of your neck. Not thinking, what does that mean? So I did a Google search on it. And what it basically means, if you're listening with the back of the neck, you're listening with your whole being. And then you're going to pick up things that the other person is saying, and you're going to understand it, because you've zipped your mouth, you put a thing across your mouth, stop, and not trying to jump in and say, when she's finished or when he's finished, I'm going to say this. No, just listen with the back of your neck. That's it.
Oh, I like that. Listen with the back of your neck. I'm going to try that with the kids. They can do the same.
Good luck with that, Andrew.
I'll let you know how it goes. Thanks for sharing that, Lance. Yeah, well, I mean, we're nearly out of time. Just coming back to finishing with an R2A2. And yeah, if you just have a think about something that you recognise in your own business from today's discussion, and then how does that relate to you as well? And so, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? And that thing that you recognise and relate, how do you assimilate that into your business? And that is like, how can you use it? How can you use what you've learned today in your business? And the last one is action, which is when. So when can you use it? So what's something today that you recognise, and how does it relate to you? How can you use it in your business? And then when can you use it? So yeah, just make your own notes. That's for you to take home from today. And other than that, does anyone else want to, Joe, Andrew, Corny, do you guys want to share anything today? Any stories?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. That was really good. I mean, I guess for me, it just reiterated, we do a lot of work with grassroots business. And I always say to those businesses, if you're not collaborating with 4 or 5 other businesses, you're not collaborating enough. So, yeah, for me, I guess just reiterated, the importance of collaboration. And Aarti and Quang kind of touched on it, that it is, sometimes it's a long game. Sometimes you don't get a return on investment straight away. And that's okay. And I think the other thing was, sometimes you got to look beyond the dollar signs in terms of, it's not always a dollar return on investment. I've been doing a bit of work with some angel investor groups lately. Not only do those guys have dollars to give, but they have a lot of knowledge and mentorship, and sometimes people go to those people and are disappointed if they don't get money, but they've got a lot more to offer as well. So I think it's also about not thinking in dollar terms, but what kind of return on investment you want to get out of those collaborations, I guess. So yeah, thanks. It was good.
Thanks, Cody. Andrew.
Thank you, and this has been really helpful. And I love this book. So I was trying to apply it, and I'm actually building a business right now. So it's really interesting, and I really like Lance's back of the neck analogy. I believe that's Lance. In terms of listening, because I'm sorry, I was a bit tardy to the meeting because I got a call from a potential partner, which is a friend that taught me quite a bit just in that one call about win-win-win and back of the neck listening. And it's someone that I've known for a very long time, but I didn't know how much similarity we had. So it was a very strong. It was all the aspects of win-win-win, collaboration. We even kind of went to a little bit of, oh, you fit here, kind of to the analogies in the book of what Scotty shared and some of his business experience of finding one partner and then identifying that and putting it together. So it was, I don't know, I had it right before this call. I had kind of the business judo all come together just because I put the energy there.
Awesome.
So that was just my story. I'm just grateful. Thank you very much for all of you. I really appreciate listening.
Oh, well, thanks for jumping in today. Joe, did you have anything? You all good? Just taking it in? All good? No worries. Yeah, so I guess I'll just there's 4 minutes left. In closing, Lance, Quang, Aarti, do you have anything to add further today? All good?
My just overall thing is to do what works for you, but to consistently challenge yourself to either add on skills, relationships, or an area that you're not really necessarily strong in, to kind of work on those areas, but start always from a place of comfort, because that reduces the stress that you bring into your life and how you bring stress into your life. And that allows you to make better decisions for your business, for your personal, for your family, for your anything really.
So true.
I'll go next. I'll just, speaking of the emotional kind of side, is that the thing that kind of like shifted things for me was understanding that there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be problems. But what you actually want is you want higher quality problems. Yeah. So if you're worrying about, hey, like how am I going to pay the bills this month, this week, that to me, that's a low quality problem. What you actually want to have is, hey, how do I onboard 100 clients? So understand that there's always going to be problems. Seek to have higher quality problems, right? And by helping you do that is by being able to regulate your emotion, allows you to seek what you need. And then finally is that, hey, it's been great hanging out with everyone here, and just, Scotty and Andrew are doing great things, and thank you for this opportunity just to share what insights I've learned along the way. So really appreciate that, mate.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on and sharing today. All right, so hopefully today, so that's how to win with business judo. We've gone through, talking about positive mental attitude, how they collaborate, how they leverage, creating the win-win-win, and how they network. And that's how successful people win using business judo. So thanks everyone for joining today. We'll close off the session today, and we're going to also, and one more thing is we're going to do another one of these, still coming with the subject and topics for it, but March 13th will be the next one. So look out for that, and we'll come back again with some more content.
Okay. Thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Andrew, Scotty.
It was very, very good. We'll see you all in the next one. Be sure, read the book if you haven't read the book, or share the book if you have. A lot of good stuff in there. That's a lot of good advice. So, and today we just touched a little bit of it. So thanks, Andrew. You did an awesome job at facilitating. So thanks everyone for coming, and we'll see you all at the next one.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.